All right. Good evening to those of you on the East Coast. A good evening also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from. As you all know, we try to give you guys the rundown of the goings on in the entertainment industry in our show known as This Week in I'm about to say This Week in Review, folks, but it is no longer This Week in Review. It is This Week in Pop Culture. So yes, this week in pop culture, and we typically do this show in the morning, but today we're doing it in the evening. Life happens, and sometimes we're not always able to do it at our standard time, but we are still able to squeeze it in on the same day of the week that we typically do it. Of course, I'm not going to be alone in talking about some of the stories that have occurred over this past week. So it's my pleasure, as always, to welcome my co-host, Mr. Spillman Trueheart, aka Spills. What's going on, man?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How are we doing today?
He's
I'm
trying to
just
get. He's
here
trying to get.
with
There
my
you go. He's trying to get.
effects.
There
That's right.
you
It's fanfare every time I see you, ladies and gentlemen. But it's been a great week. I hit on a shock drop on the sneakers app. So I already got my birthday present on the way. I'm going to have it early, so I'm gonna show up to my birthday. They're gonna be like, "Oh, where'd you get them? Those don't come out for 2 weeks." I'm like, "I got to hook up at Nike. I know the people." That's right.
Oh, okay, okay,
I
all
don't.
right.
I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone, ladies and gentlemen. But if
It's like
you know
Spillman.
if you're someone at Nike and you're listening to this and you think that I have the swag, holla at your boy.
So with that out of the way, let's dive in spills. There's a lot to dive into, a lot to do a deep dive on. So first and foremost, we're going to dive into our first story, which is centered around CinemaCon. If you're not familiar, with that show, just to give you a quick rundown of this trade show. Started back in 2011. It has evolved and grown to become the largest and most important gathering for the worldwide motion picture theater industry. It's annually held in Las Vegas, which this year's show, it took place from April 8th to April 11th, just as you would normally, come to expect from, a trade show. It features a multitude of components that you would typically see with a trade show in terms of, having an exhibit hall, being able to showcase the latest technological advances and innovative, concession offerings at this, trade show. And of course, just like we will come to expect at, some of our premier conventions, our premier pop culture shows like San Diego Comic Con or New York Comic Con, or I know we've had guests on here, talk about C2E2, Awesome Con as examples. They also feature screenings and also see the biggest stars, producers, and directors of the film industry attend. So Spillman, there were a lot of things that went down. I want to be able to, give a quick spark notes, if you will, of some of the things, and want to hear, what your thoughts are on some of the things that were shown. But before I dive into that, before I dive into some of these news bits that came out of CinemaCon, you know, for you, I don't believe you've had a chance to go to CinemaCon yet. What are your thoughts on the show? Is it something that is on your list of shows to still attend, or perhaps you're hearing about it for the first time?
So this is my first time really hearing about it. I saw some of the things online because I got my ear to the streets on these social media sites. People send me little drips and dips about different things. So I was able to see some of the drops that they had with their show. I think they did some pretty weighty trailers and other kinds of intros. That looks very interesting to me. I think that if you're trying to get into con, something like a cinema con would be a good like jumping in point if you're not really more so into the verse of comics or autocon or manga and anime. But I feel like the cinemaphobes or cinephiles, I'm sorry, not phobes, cinephiles are much they're really intense about their craft, and I'm really interested in that. Um, that they hold them. Like I imagine they hold them every year. You said that
Yeah,
they
it
were
is
in San
held
Diego
annually.
as well.
Yeah. Say
This
again.
this shows in this show is in San Diego as well, or where's the show?
No, 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 no. So that's what I was saying a little earlier. It's in annually held in Vegas, actually, instead of
Oh,
San Diego.
okay, in Conference Town. So I think we should definitely make a trip to this one next year because again,
Okay.
we like Vegas. We don't like to
I
gamble,
do
but
like Vegas. I do like Vegas, and
I
that's the
gamble
thing
with
too. I'm
hearts.
not a
I gamble
gambler
with
either,
hearts. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
but but I will say this, and I don't know if anyone else out there agrees with me, but Vegas is fun when you're going there for something. If it's not like if you're not going there for, as you said, like a conference or a show, I feel like it's not as you can get you can
Yeah,
kind of bored with it
or a
within
bachelor
after a couple
party
of
or
days.
something like that. Yeah.
So but no, I want to now that we had that established, I want to get into some of the things. I know you were teasing it just a moment ago. Is some of the things that came out of the show. So we did get a look at the new Joker film that's coming out. Of course, it is a sequel to the 2019 film. And I apologize if I'm butchering this, guys, if I'm like mispronunciating it or what have you, but it is titled Joker Folly a Dieu, Dux, I believe. Again,
Duh.
apologize.
Duh.
Yeah, thank you.
Duh.
I
Yeah, there you
apologize if
go.
I'm
There you go.
butchering it, but just to I know you had a chance to see the trailer. What are your thoughts on what they showed, or the feel that they give, with the sequel?
I will say this, for a role that was previously played by Margot Robbie, one of the most beautiful women in the world, Gaga doesn't look like she's not supposed to be that character. Gaga, she did her thing. I feel like she did her thing. And then I liked the trailer because it brought me back to my Austin Powers bona fides, and I was like, ladies and gentlemen, the great Burt Bacharach. So that was really cool. I like that. What the world sees now is love, sweet love. Even though Joker don't love Harley Quinn, he doesn't treat her like he loves her. That's not how you treat
Yeah,
somebody
we
that
we
you
know
love.
this, we know this,
Yeah,
but
that's not love.
again, this
You can't
is,
find love in an
to be
insane
fair,
asylum.
this is an Elseworld, quote unquote, an Elseworlds universe for Batman, and they're not following everything to the T, because if we're really being technical, based off of what can be assumed from what we're seeing in the trailer, Harley starts off as a psychiatrist versus being a patient, and it looks like that's kind of the way they're spinning it. I could be wrong, but just based off of observing what they show in the trailer, it seems like she's a patient versus being, a psychiatrist, which is diverting a little bit from what we know about that character. So perhaps there's a twist on that where he really does have feelings for Harley in this interpretation of the story, because it seems like
This Joker may. This Joker may.
maybe
Yeah, the,
maybe
the the Joker from the comic books don't love that girl.
yes, agreed, agreed.
Um, yeah. I also I like the way that they've shot it. The shots that they showed on the trailer were absolutely
Yeah,
beautiful, and I think that
yeah,
you know um, that's one thing that DC hasn't been that good at. Like the last thing that I could think of that's really like an image that was from the comic books that they put into the world was probably Batman v Superman. I can't tell you the or maybe something in the Flash movie, but so few people saw that. It's not like a big thing, but like some of the iconography that they use and the color schemes actually looks to me like how comic book art is without it being too overbearing, without it being like, all right, we're just going to put a bunch of cartoon CGI that's eye popcorn all over the place, and your eyes just going to take it all in. But it's like the cinematography and stuff. So I'm excited for this. This is going to be, I think, a good movie. Although, get ready for your girlfriend to dress up like Harley Quinn this coming Halloween. So get it now. Buy the costume now, ladies and gentlemen. Don't buy it in October because you're not going to be able to find
well,
it in
if
your
they're
size.
playing their cards right, I would assume that that outfit will be available just prior to the release of the movie. If you have the marketing folks doing, doing their due diligence,
Merchandising.
there you
Merchandising.
go. There you go. There you go. But there were some other components that were discussed as well. We did have like confirmation, or I should say, we did have a look at, from what I understand, the emblem for Superman, the official emblem, and we also got looks at the I guess you could say the aesthetic for Fantastic Four. I know we kind of had that kind of retro '60s aesthetic, and it was pretty much confirmed. But one thing that was interesting, and I'm going to see if I can pull it up, they did really make a point. There was an emphasis placed on the logo that we have for Thunderbolts, and that emphasis being that asterisk that they have with the title is not there by accident. There's actually a reason as to why they have that asterisk there. So, and talking briefly about what we have from outside of course, the Elseworlds Joker film, which is in that DC universe. What are your thoughts on some of the other things that came out? From what we'll soon get with DC, and then of course, uh, some of the things that we received from Marvel.
Well, a Thunderbolts movie is a game changer for sure, because that means that Marvel is quickly going to pivot from this Infinite Kings or whatever they're doing. It's going to be Avengers versus X-Men. That's what they're telling you, because that's or no, the Thunderbolts was the antithesis, was the impetus to the Civil War, so they can't go back and do that one. So I think they might use the intro for that one to try to do something like that, because I think the character that starts off Civil War was a mutant, so maybe, who knows. But I think this is all good. Marvel is trying to pivot away from that issue with your boy. So we're not even gonna say his name because we don't need to disparage our African American kings on the internet. So, but Marvel's moving forward. They're saying we're gonna lean into the Fantastic Four and the X-Men because y'all don't know who Kang is anyway.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know, we'll see.
and here's the thing too. Like, if we are, I still believe it, based off of what has been shown, that they're still going to lean the into wrapping up the multiverse storyline or arc that they have. Because let's be honest,
Hmm.
despite everything that's happened, they've invested too much time and energy into already establishing all of that. Between, if they're going to completely turn their back on it, they're going to basically, it's basically a slap in the face to the Loki series, because the Loki series is nothing but multiverse stuff.
It's
um
all
it-
multiverse.
it's literally all multiverse, setting up the foundation of everything that we come to know about how the multiverse works. So it's kind of like s- uh uh a slap in the face to that show, which, by the way, out of which a lot of what has happened in the last couple of projects, whether it's been television shows or movies, it's one of the few things that people like and that people have responded to. So to kind of turn your back on that, just by virtue of a change that you're making, with your performers, wouldn't make a lot of sense. And I mean, they've already demonstrated in the past that they can do a casting change and not skip a beat or miss a beat of continuing the story. I mean, we had the same instance of that happening with what is it, with Terrence Howard way back when with Iron Man. We got Don Cheadle, and it still hasn't, the
We
franchise
don't
hasn't
even
missed a beat
remember that
since.
Terrence was in their movies, right?
So, and then we also are going to have an instance of that, which they did actually show at CinemaCon. We will get what is it, Harrison Ford replacing William Hurt as General Ross. So, we have that component as well. The
Oh,
last thing that I wanted
yeah.
to get into, of course, there were tons of things that came out of the show, but we're not really going to have time to go over every single thing. But I did want to touch on this because I know that you are a fan of this franchise, as am I, and that is the Alien franchise. Of
Oh,
course, we
yeah.
had Alien Romulus. Apparently, they showed a scene from that film, and in that scene, apparently, it is a scene that takes place in a room where a lot of the ensemble they're in water, and they're not aware, apparently, that there are face huggers that are in the room with them, and so there is a fight for survival as these face huggers are trying to attack them and face hug them, in this environment. And but there's another added component because apparently there's also going to be a droid, as we normally have in an alien film. We'll also have a droid who is, on their side, but to add an extra layer of suspense, has to reboot during that time that the attack is happening. So, it takes away that element or that support that you would
Superpower,
otherwise
yeah.
have, in fighting these face huggers. So, um, they've shown a lot of stuff, at least thus far in the teaser that seem promising, but I'm cautiously optimistic when that comes to that with the Alien franchise because I've been burned before with the prior franchises where the trailers have been terrific, they've been awesome, and then like once we finally see the film, it just seems like while I appreciate the ambition and a lot of the ideas that are trying to that an attempt that the attempt is being made to kind of tackle, I feel like at the end of the day, it still needs to be a film that functions as an alien film, and we can't get tied up in a lot of this minutia of trying to be super deep, if that makes sense. So I don't know,
Oh, for sure.
what your thoughts are on this upcoming franchise, and then hearing what they showed, what your thoughts are.
Well, I think that the last couple of movies were pretty good to me. Obviously, I don't know how people feel about the Prometheus, and then the one after it.
I mean, I like
Um,
Prometheus. I was gonna say I like Prometheus, and I like what was it, Covenant, that came after. But
yeah,
there are parts of it that I like. Like Prometheus,
yeah.
for example. I feel like, again, going to what I was just saying, it was very ambitious in terms of what it was trying to do, and I feel like the alien stuff got lost in that somehow. Where
Well,
it
they're
could
not
have
actually talking
easily,
about the aliens. It's
but here,
Prometheus. They're not talking
but
about.
that's
They
that's
like giving you
exactly
some
what I mean.
backstory. Yeah.
That's exactly what I mean, though, because it could have easily been a solid science fiction film by itself without including any attachment to the Alien franchise, and it would have been perfectly fine. But by saying that you are in that universe, there is some synergy there that needs to happen if you're going to say that you're a part of that universe. That was my issue with the Prometheus film, because I like a lot of elements of it, and I like things that they're trying to establish, or they have interesting ideas. But if you're going to say that you're an alien film, you need to be an alien film. Um, and the same goes if we're talking about Covenant, where see, I think I might have just lost Spillman there just for a second. Let's see if we can get him back on. Let's see here. Here he is. Lost him there for a second, but it looks like I got him back. Let's see here. Here we go. Spill, you're back with us. Looks like we have him back with us. Hold on, guys. There we go. Got you back.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was just saying,
Yeah.
even Prometheus. I enjoy Covenant too, but my issue with Covenant is by and this is getting into spoiler territory, guys, but
That movie came out 8 years ago. We can talk about a movie from 8 years
it
ago.
is what it is. So I'll get into spoilers right now, and I'll say so. Start spoiler now by
Hmm.
having what is it, David be the creator of the xenomorphs. I feel like it makes the story far smaller and less epic than it could have been. Like it didn't need to be as condensed as that by having him be the creator. So um I we'll see what happens. I know there is, the information out there that perhaps, they may try to slightly retcon that or in the new film and like kind of explaining that
I
away
don't
that
think they
maybe
will.
he's not.
I don't think they
No, I'm
will.
saying that maybe he's not really the creator and he just was able to produce it from the goo or something on his own or just replicate it of what was already created. So we'll see if they kind of dive into that. But it's kind of the same issue that I have with Star Wars, where I'm like, the story doesn't always have to be about Skywalkers. Like
Yes, it does. This
we're talking
Star
about
Wars. That's why you forget.
but
I
we're
disagree with this.
talking
I
about an
disagree with
entire
this.
galaxy.
We're not
Yeah,
talking about
it's
an
about
entire
the whole
galaxy.
galaxy.
We're talking about the House Skywalker and their struggle to change and form the Star Wars universe as they see it. Because ultimately, that's what the stories are about. Sure, they have other cool
Nah, that's all
characters,
well
and
and
that's
good,
fun,
but every story doesn't have
but
to, which is why I
you know.
appreciate all the other Star Wars stuff that we've gotten
That other
outside of
Star,
the
other
movies.
outside of
'Cause I'm like,
Mandalorian, most of that stuff is goofy. I disagree with you on that one. Like the Solo movie, garbage. Like but I mean, obviously Clone Wars and stuff was cool, but that's about the Skywalkers. It's not about the other people. No one wants to see those other people. That's one thing I will give the internet nerds. Like they were saying things that were mean to that one lady, but did nobody come to no Star Wars movie to see you? Why are you in this movie so much? Why isn't Ray doing lightsaber stuff? What y'all couldn't afford lightsabers in this movie? So I get that part. Why y'all at a casino? That doesn't make no sense. Military industrial complex? Who's talking about that in Star Wars movie? We're not talking about the military industrial
we will
complex.
have to
We
agree
got
to disagree with that.
space moons
I will just
that have
say I
lasers on them.
appreciate it when the story is not focused on Skywalkers for a change. That's all I'll say.
I feel like I
Um,
feel like you are letting go of main character
and I believe
energy.
I
This
am
is a
not
main
alone
character
in
thing.
that
Yeah.
sentiment.
That's
So
fine. That's fine.
um,
I don't actually agree with that. That doesn't that sounds
that's
crazy
cool.
to me. That's like
That's why I
as a Michael
appreciate having
Jordan
you
fan,
on.
I don't understand that.
That's
That's a
why I
LeBron
appreciate
take.
having you on.
That's a LeBron take, my friend. That's a LeBron take. That's what
That's why I
LeBron would say.
appreciate having
It
you
don't
on.
always have to be me that win the game.
You're not
I
gonna
could
always
pass the
agree.
ball and let somebody else get some shine. That's what LeBron would say. Michael wouldn't say that. Michael would say, "Give me the ball every time because I'm the goat."
Well, you know what? Thank you for the assist, sir. Because that's a great segue into our next story. How about that?
Well,
So,
there you go,
getting
ladies and gentlemen.
into getting into our next story. This is centered around Allen Iverson, aka the Answer. So over the course of this week, on Friday, in fact, the Sixers unveiled a statue honoring him at their Legends Walk. Just to give you an idea of what the Answer has accomplished in his NBA career. Of course, he's retired now, but just to give you guys a rundown of his resume: 1997 Rookie of the Year, three-time All NBA First Team, and this is in 1999, 2000, or I should say in 1999, 2001, 2005, three-time steals leader, 11-time NBA All Star, four-time NBA scoring champion. Spillman, your thoughts, sir?
My father is from the 757, and I was a kid in the 90s, so Allen Iverson is one of the greats. The people on the internet were pretty funny about the size of the statue. When all of the statues at the 76ers arena is like that, so I don't actually have a problem with it. Obviously, it's not always about how big something is or what something looks like, whatever. The statue looks cool. It's doing its patented move. That's the move that created the NBA as we know it. I feel like having guys like Wimby or Joker do the moves that they do is because of Allen Iverson. The most famous picture I can think of right now is the picture of Kristaps Porzingis with the braids in Lithuania. Like, can you imagine? Like that. That's just Allen Iverson is a cultural linchpin. Um, Top five most influential NBA players all time. Top five. Um, and obviously, if you're influential, it's not necessarily on your impact on what the your number of championships you win, but there's so many rules that the NBA made up because of Allen Iverson, and it's not just like on court moves. Rules. They made off court rules, decorum rules. Like, you know, they decided to change how they sold the league because of how popular Allen Iverson was. Honestly, Allen Iverson was the guy that was after Michael Jordan, really. If we're going to be 100% like that cultural phenomenon, Kobe is great. I love Kobe. I'm a huge Lakers fan.
But Kobe was a remix. Kobe was a remix.
He was a remix. He was not an original. He was not his own man. Allen Iverson was always his own man. And I am a Laker fan. He ruined our perfect playoff.
And I just want to say this: we're talking about practice.
We
Practice.
talk about not a game,
Not a game.
not a game.
Practice.
Mr. Bubba Chuck. That's what they call him, Bubba Chuck. That's crazy. The answer.
Oh
It's
man.
just
But yeah,
he's the
no,
he's one
like
of the
you
You as a guard, tell us more. Tell us about how this guy, because this is your guy. Allen
no, it is
Iverson is
my
truly
guy.
your guy. As
So
a guy, I've
like I
seen your
said,
game.
I dropped. Yeah, I've dropped. Yeah. Spillman knows. Spillman knows. Y'all, some of y'all don't know. Well, some of y'all do. Some of y'all
Oh yeah,
have
yeah. We
experienced it
get served
firsthand
up.
out there,
That's
but
right.
some of y'all haven't. So we can figure out a time to fix that where I can
Hey, be
break some
careful with the
ankles
soft
with
tissue
the handle.
injuries. We're old men now. You gotta be careful with the soft tissue
Oh
injuries.
no,
But
I
go on. I'm
stay
gonna
in
let
good
you cook.
shape. I stay in good
Okay.
shape.
All right.
I
The same
still
father
box
time, brother.
still do all
Father
of
time.
that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Go.
Hey,
Go.
still frying people on the court, still frying. But
Okay.
anyway,
You be
I
careful.
digress. But yes, and speaking of Allen Iverson, is definitely someone who inspired me because just in talking about like that resume that I just went down of having all of those scoring titles of being all NBA, and he's barely 6 foot. I feel like 6 foot is
He's not
being
6 feet
generous.
tall. He's 5'10".
That's what I'm saying.
He's 6 feet.
Right.
He's a
That's what I'm
he's
saying.
a dating profile 6 feet tall. Dating profile 6 feet. Not 6 feet in
I'm
real
just
life.
saying we're
Like you
being
see it on his
generous by
profile, you
saying
say, "Oh yeah,
we're
yeah,
being generous by saying 6 foot. And so like even in being 6 foot, like your guards are what, like on average, six
six
five,
four."
6'6",
That's how
six
tall
six.
Derek Fisher. Derek Fisher was six
So
four.
to be able
Yeah,
to be effective for that long, because we said I said
to
what we said
dominate, not just
dominate,
effective,
dominate,
dominate.
dominate at that size, and
Yeah,
still among all those trees out there, and we're talking, guys, we're talking about an era where we had Michael Jordan. He played in that era. We're talking about an era with Kobe Bryant. You're just talking about Kobe Bryant. We're talking about an era with Shaquille O'Neal. We're talking about an
Tracy
era with Tracy
McGrady.
McGrady. Like, and there's so many iconic moments. I mean, you have the moment where he crossed Michael Jordan. That was crazy.
Crazy.
Um, we had a scene where, and it's still iconic, even though they didn't even win the final series when they played the Lakers. Speaking of Kobe and what you call it, and Shaq, you having those moments where he crossed Tyronn Lue, he brought it back, and then Tyronn Lue fell, and Iverson looked down at him and stepped over him and kept him moving. or like people forget about J.R. Ryder. Who remembers J.R. Ryder? Like when he was checking Iverson, and this was again with the Lakers. Um, he basically what is it? He had the entire team. It was basically like the entire team playing defense on Iverson, and he was cutting and carving through everybody on that Lakers team, and still got a shot off. Like I'll never forget that, where he had like people just like because he was changing direction like so like frantically where they weren't able to keep up with them. And I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, they did end up winning the series. But let's be honest, did
How
anyone?
did that team that might be
But I'm saying,
one of the worst teams to ever make the finals?
did anyone A have them going to the finals, and B did anyone even having them win a game?
No,
Nobody.
like I said, we were
And they won.
perfect that
No,
year, except
that
for
was
that
game
game.
one. They won game
That was
one.
game one. Yes, they came out and punched us in the face.
They weren't supposed to win anything in that game. It was supposed to be a
No,
sweep. They still
it
managed
was
to steal a
supposed to be a
game
sweep.
with that squad that they had.
Yeah,
So yeah, hats off
he was
to the answer.
Mister Put him on your back for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So again, hats off to the answer, Allen Iverson, out of Georgetown. He went to Georgetown University prior to his NBA career. I remember that that Georgetown career that he had prior to going to NBA. Outstanding Georgetown career.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, any last thoughts before we dive a little deeper into the NBA?
Just AI was a great. I just think it's crazy that we may not get a homegrown from the mud type player like that with the way that recruiting works in the NBA now. Now you have to be a prep to pro type player. You have to answer all the questions right. You have to have your social media team together. He's the last like really unpolished guy because even LeBron, even though he came like out of the mud, kind of, LeBron was being groomed the whole time. He wasn't an authentic, just him kind of guy. So it's just crazy
And
to have.
I'll also say this: he may be the one of the last few players that we see that is just, I don't know how I can explain this, but just like, just a pure scorer. And don't get me wrong, like we do have pure scorers in the league, but in terms of what are asked of stars in the NBA right
Yeah,
now, you have to do
yeah,
everything. You have to be able to be
yeah,
a Swiss Army knife. You have to be able to do, pass the ball. You have to be able to do, triple doubles. And it's not to say that Iverson is incapable of doing that. It just wasn't asked of him to do. And
yeah,
it was a different era where it's like that Jordan era where you give him the ball and let him go to work. And we don't have as many players like that these days, where we have a lot more players these days where they are being asked to do everything, where they're just asked to fill up that stat sheet. So all right,
yeah.
so getting
It's crazy.
into the NBA playoffs, I want to see if I can pull this up for you guys.
Yeah, pull up those standings for us, Brandon. Who's in? Who's where? Let's talk about who's where in the play-in games because that's what we
Yeah,
talk about. Play-in tournament because you know some people's teams aren't where other people's teams were. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we had a pre-conference yesterday because we talk every Friday to see what we're going to do on Saturday. And
yes,
yesterday it was a three-way tie, but
it
someone's
was.
team
It
went
was.
out and won the games they were supposed to win. And now we are in the quote unquote driver's seat for the play-in game. So we'll see where this goes. We might be up to seventh. I don't know. I hope we get up to seventh, but we'll see. Let's
Indeed,
we could
indeed. All right, so
yeah.
let's see if I can pull this up for you guys. If it wants to cooperate with me, let's see here. All right, but while I'm getting that up and running, this coming week we do have the play-in that's happening for the NBA, which is happening from April 16th to the 19th, and then we have the official playoffs kicking off on Saturday. Just as Spillman was talking about, something that we have not seen, in the NBA that has become an occurrence this year is that we have a three-way tie, or should say there was a three-way tie that we have with the Western Conference in the 1, 2, and 3 spot. So that's going to make things interesting outside of the normal narrative that we have going on with the play-in. Now, if you're not familiar with the play-in, basically what that is that you have the teams from the 7 to 10 spot that are in the standings in the East or the West, and basically, they battle it out in order to definitively say that they are that seventh seed and eighth seed. So I wanted to be able to put up the diagram for you guys, but just to explain it, in essence, what happens is that for that seventh and eighth game, whoever wins that seven eight contest, the winner immediately goes to that seventh spot, and then the loser ends up having a second chance to potentially at least be the eighth spot. And then what you have with the ninth and 10th spot, the winner of that plays the loser of that 7-8 game to battle out to be the eighth seed. And then once we have that established seventh and eighth seed, then they're placed into the normal standings that we would have with the overall playoffs, which you have your 1 and your 8 in that first round, and your 2 and your 7 in that first round. So based off of what we have, Spillman, what are your thoughts on what we have going on in that plan? Because both of our teams are in that plan. So
Yeah, I think so. Right now, we will be playing in against the Suns. And I feel like the Suns are a good team, but I am not worried really about the Suns because they do not have a point guard, ladies and gentlemen. And when you need to win a one game, you need a point guard to win a one game. Like I don't care if you got three scores that can get out and drop 50. They might not be hot that day, and they also need to be facilitated too. Um, it's
we've
also
talked
the
about
first
this.
year they played together. Yeah, this is the first year they
We
played
talked
together.
about this
So
that they don't really have, as talented as their three players are. All of them, you have two guys that are wings, and then you have another guy who's kind of like I guess you can say a flash
they're
wing.
all
It's
wings.
not a true.
All of them are wings.
That's what I'm
All of them are
saying.
wings.
So
Yeah.
so you don't have anyone who's like a pure point guard. Like even if you're putting Devin Booker in that spot, he's not
He
a
ain't no point
typical
guard.
point guard. He really is a shooting guard.
He don't know what to
So
do with a double
I
team.
wanted to.
He's yeah. Uh-oh, we're
So
having
I
a
mean,
small
if you wanted
technical
to dive into
difficulty.
your
Okay, go
Lakers,
ahead.
what are your thoughts on where they're where you
I think we can
see
lock
them
up the
going
seventh
and where
seed.
you
I
realistically have
think we
them.
can lock up the seventh seed because the Lakers are playing the Suns as of today. And right now, the Suns don't scare me. I think we've beaten them a couple times this season. Their really big joker is Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant, unless he's got a certain other person on this podcast, point guard on this team, can't beat LeBron James. I don't know that he can beat LeBron James in a head-to-head match like that. Um, but I think what's really interesting is what's going to happen in the East because I feel like Boston's been at the top of the league this whole year, and if they don't win this year, they're gonna have to break that team up because you can't win 63 games and be 20 games ahead of the other team and not win the playoffs. So that's very interesting to me. But
Yeah,
I'm not worried about the Suns. I'm not worried about the Suns. Even if we lose to the Suns, we could beat y'all the Kings to stay in the playoffs. We ain't got no problems. The Thunder don't scare me either. because they second best player is a rookie. So I'm not worried, and it's a rookie big man. Rookie big men historically do not do good against veteran big men. Like, you've seen it all this year. Wimby is great, but anytime he plays a veteran big man, even though Wimby puts up crazy numbers against him, they put up crazy numbers against him because his body's just not developed. And I like the kid for the Thunder, the big kid, but he's not going to be strong enough to hang with Anthony Davis. I know that much. Like, there's only one dude in the league right now that Anthony Davis can't really mess with, and that's Jokic. And we wouldn't see them as it stands probably until the conference finals. That's what it looks like, right? Because
Yeah,
3-6
yeah,
plays 4-5 after that.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
for
so
me,
we'll.
I would say what we have with the Warriors and the Kings, that is an interesting matchup because I'm gonna be objective and say that the Kings have a shot of knocking the Warriors out. But at the same time, I don't feel like it's like one of the other matchups that we see where it seems pretty obvious of who the winner could be. I can see either one of those teams making it out of that matchup. Um, it's just really going to be dependent upon the consistent play that we have from Thompson and from brain farting our other wingman's name that we picked up.
Wiggins.
Wiggins, thank you. With Wiggins and with Thompson. And I mean, of course, with the continued consistent, effort from our other players too. But like I'm saying, in terms of our shooting, uh, we're still going to need consistent play. Steph is going to be Steph, but he's going to need a supporting cast consistently to be able to make any noise in the playoffs. But I will say this might be it because in picturing how the lineup or the roster can be weaved and reconstructed based off of where it's currently constructed right now. I'm not seeing a whole bunch of things that can be done other than breaking up the trio that we got. So that's
I think that y'all have
one
come
and
so far with those guys. I don't think they should let. I mean, maybe they'll trade Draymond for some pieces for the future. But what are you gonna get for any
I
of
would
those
say for
guys? Like,
Clay, potentially trading Clay because, and I feel like it would be beneficial for Clay too because I've talked about it here on the show before. Just that idea of whenever you are, and this is not just talking about the NBA. I'm just talking about in life when you are in a given job, sometimes having a change of scenery makes all the difference in terms of kind of like refreshing you and giving you kind of like a, if we're talking like fitness talk, uh like a second win. It can give you a second win of sorts by kind of changing your scenery. And sometimes you can get burnt out or you can kind of get in a lull by being in the same place, for such a long time. And I mean, they've accomplished a lot thus far, in the time that they've spent together. But it might be after this year time to break it up.
as a fan of teams that are loyal to their players, I think it would be a disservice to all the things that Warriors group did for that franchise. Because
I don't think
let's be honest, that was the fourth franchise in the state of California. Like, it was Lakers, then Clippers or Kings maybe, and then the Warriors will last for a long time.
they were. But let me know.
Um,
Tell me this. Tell me if you disagree with this. I still feel like you are showing loyalty to your player, and I'm saying in the context of trading them that you are showing loyalty to them. If say if the player is trying to request a trade to a specific team, and that team, your original team, makes every effort to kind of follow that request. I feel like even if they need to trade you, if they are willing to look into the requests that you're providing, because a lot of times, let's be honest, when a lot of these players are traded, they're traded to the team, whatever whatever deal the team can get. But a lot of times there are times too where you'll see that original team that drafted that player will work with that player to get them to a team that they desire to be in. So like in a situation like that, I don't see it as a disservice if they are willing to work with you to get you to your new employer, so to speak.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't feel like at this point in Clay's, Draymond, maybe Steph's career, maybe Steph could be
Because
looking
do
to
we
go somewhere
honestly see
else.
Clay? I'm saying, do we honestly see Clay, making the money that he wants to make by staying with the Warriors or by moving to a different
I don't
team?
think it's about money. I don't think it's about money with Klay Thompson. His father played in the NBA. It's not about money with him. It's about the rings. Anytime anybody talks mess to that Warriors team, Clay's always like, baby, I got four of them things. I don't know what y'all talking about, but I got four of them things. And if you won four rings somewhere, I say keep them in house. Let them retire here. I don't care if y'all got paid. Like, Kobe won five rings for Lakers, and they let him play for four more years where he didn't really have anything in the tank. It was over that. But that lets people know that your franchise is a serious franchise, and they reward people for what they do. So, you start talking about the money, and it's like, oh, Clay wants to make $20 million a year, and we don't know when we know that Clay himself probably made 20 or $30 million a year for the franchise. So, it's money
But let
earned at
me
this
ask
point.
you, well, let me ask you this, Spills. To your point of trying to win another title, if you see that there is an opportunity to play for a contender and to be a huge component of that contender getting another ring, is it that important to you to get the ring with your original franchise, or is it just important just to get the ring in and of itself?
To me, I don't feel like Draymond or Clay have enough in the gas tank that they would be the guy to put a team over the top. That would just be
I'm
another
not
ring
saying as
that
a
you
main
win.
guy. I'm just saying
I'm not
maybe
even
a
saying
third.
as like a contributor. I don't think either of those two guys are a third option anymore. Like,
Wow.
I don't think that they are. Like, I think that
Wow. Okay.
Draymond works with Steph because Steph is the greatest shooter of all time, and he needs a bully and a off point guard who's actually a big man to draw the defense. But I don't think that either of those guys, like, if you traded Draymond to any other team in the NBA, he's on the bench. If you trade Clay to any other team in the NBA, he's on the bench. I don't like. I don't
Mm.
like. He's not. I don't think he's the starting shooting guard for you guys now, is he?
I believe they changed it back. Because you are right. They have been kind of messing with the roster for a
I
while
mean,
there, but
just let him retire. Do like Boston did. Steve Kerr, he saw the Bulls how they did it. Let them dudes retire. Don't try to mess it up talking about the money or talking about these personalities don't work well. That's not really what it's about. They won four championships for y'all. They doubled the amount of championships that they did, two more championships than the franchise had. One of them they won with Rick Barry, the other one they won with Wilt Chamberlain a million years ago. So like to not pay these dudes what they worth and not just let them like that team would be stuck in Oakland. Imagine if that team was stuck in Oakland today. They had to take In and Out Burger out of Oakland because the economy was so bad. The franchise would probably move out the area if it wasn't for Steph Curry and them boys. So to me, I understand what you're saying. Like, let them go out, maybe for Steph or somebody like that. But the rest of these guys, like, let them retire. And let it be. We stayed with one team. We did it the right way. All of us was drafted by this team. We won together. Sure, KD came and gave us two extra rings, but we still won together. We still did it our way. We did it the right way. We changed the NBA. That seems so much better than trading people. But that's I'll get off
I
my
don't know.
soapbox about
Like
that kind of
I
thing.
feel like whether you take out Draymond and you put him with a team that just needs that just needs that presence. He doesn't need to like be the guy, but he could still benefit another team in terms of his expertise, his IQ of leading a team that's like right there, that's trying to get over that hump and be a contender. like even if he's not explicitly, getting playing time, I still believe that he would be an effective addition to a team that's like right there on the cusp. And then the same thing goes with Clay. Any contender right now would kill to have, a player that on any given night, could drop 20 and a quarter. Like I still believe that he has that in him, whether it's for 2 years or for 3 years. I still believe he has that capability in him to do what he, did, a few years back where he, what was it? I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was 37 and a quarter that he
Yeah,
dropped.
something crazy like
Um,
that. But that was 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago, bro. That was 10 years ago. He hasn't had 20 and a quarter. I don't know if the last 3 seasons has he done that in the last 3 seasons. I don't think he's done that in the last three seasons.
yeah, no, because
He's been a shell of himself, and I know I like their team. I've never talked bad about the Warriors. I don't talk bad about them. I just make fun of them because they not Lakers. But no, I don't know. I don't feel like I agree with because I feel like because Steve Kerr was with the Bulls and with the Spurs, and he saw like how you could do it the wrong way with like the Bulls and dealing with those guys leaving, and he saw how the Spurs did it the right way, and it was like, all right, man, we're gonna let you guys retire. Sure, they let Tony Parker go, but Tony Parker wanted to go. I don't feel like Steph, Clay, or Draymond really want to leave that area. It's like, everything is set in stone. I don't feel like Draymond feels like he has anything he has to win for. I don't feel like Clay has anything he has to win for, especially if he's not winning with his squad. Like I feel like, but who knows? He might want to come to a certain franchise that can use shooting. You know, we're the worst 3-point shooting team in the NBA.
oh no, you said that there was no chance of him going to another squad, and that's what I was getting at. That's what I was getting at. Is him potentially being just another spot up shooter for the Lakers.
I mean,
Like
Ray Allen
in
made a
terms
lot
of
of
what
money with LeBron
the
James
Lakers,
playing that
I
job.
feel like the Lakers would be willing to give up some of their younger players in order to
Oh
have
no, we
another
wouldn't.
another shooter.
No, we wouldn't, because I think they talked about it. I think they did talk about it at the trade
They
deadline.
did,
I
they
think I
did,
remember, and we was
but we
like,
may revisit it. It may get
that
revisited.
guy's a little bit old. Maybe it depends on what we do this year.
Yeah,
Because I think it was like we were talking about trading D'Angelo for him,
but to
and
his
then
credit, I feel like after those trade talks, he's been playing out of his mind. So he's
he
been
set a
being,
record. He did set a record. That's right.
yeah,
He
he's
set a
been very
Laker
consistent,
record. Yeah.
which is
So,
it has not been like him prior to that time. He hadn't been very consistent, but
you
I'll give
know,
him credit now. Y'all
yeah,
put a little
yeah.
fire up under him, and now he's being a
That's
little
right.
more consistent.
That's right. That's like when you see your girlfriend dancing with people at the club. You be like, oh, let me start getting myself together a little bit more. She's dancing with people in front of my face. Okay, I'm gonna start. You know, I'm gonna make sure these socks are hitting that hamper. They're not going to see the socks not in the hamper.
Telling on
That's
yourself
right.
here. Telling on yourself here.
That's right. I'm telling myself, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Talking some more basketball. Wanted, of course, to out. We would be remiss not to talk about, the national championships that happen in men's basketball as well as women's basketball as well. Let me put it up for you guys, but just to give some info, of course, we had a UConn win it among the on the men's side, and then on the women's side, of course, we had the uh, excuse me, had on the women's side we had the brain. Gosh, I'm having a brain
The
fart.
South Carolina Gamecocks.
It's
Go
nighttime, guys.
Cox!
It is
Go
nighttime.
Cox! Come on,
But
you
yes,
had a
on the
perfect
women's
chance to say
side we
Cox
had
on the
South Carolina,
podcast.
and on the men's side we had UConn. Now we did have a repeat with UConn winning the national championship. However, that wasn't the history that was made. Seeing that the women's game actually broke records in terms of his viewership. And I wanted to be able to put up the number here. We had 18.9 million viewers versus the 14.82 million viewers that we have for the men's side. What are your thoughts, Spillman? I already have my thoughts. I believe there is a certain player that played a role in that interest that we had on the women's side, but perhaps you had a different idea on why we had such an uptick in interest in the women's national championship.
I think that this is the chance that the WNBA gets to be a real league in that way. Obviously it's been a real league this whole time, but to have stars that draw eyes is a new thing for them. Like they've had Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, Cheryl Swoops back in the day, Lopez, all those people, but they really haven't had any people that create that kind of a buzz, like the flock of players that they are going to be sending um, to this draft. I think this is, you know, I don't think you nor I have never talked to anybody about an incoming draft class for the WNBA, but this incoming draft class might be the greatest of all time. It might be the greatest of all time. It might be up there with like a 84 NBA draft, the 96 NBA draft, '03. It's just top to bottom. The first six teams that pick are going to get a all WNBA player, it feels like. It's going to have the girls from LSU all declaring. I don't know if Juju's going to stay in school, but she should declare. I'm sure she's getting that NIL money, but declare, get out of there. The girls from from not USC, but South Carolina, that's a different USC. They're doing good. And then the elephant in the room, Caitlin. Oh, everybody loves Caitlin. So to me, it's a win-win. They really have a chance to change the game with the WNBA. Have those games on prime time. This could be their story. That because that's what they always used to say with Bird and Magic. Oh, the games for the NBA was on tape delay before Magic and Bird showed up. So I feel like they about to reinvent the wheel with those girls. How do you feel about that?
I mean, everything that you said, I pretty much, agree with. So, I'll second a lot of the things that you said. I mean, with Caitlin, we have a very much, speaking of the Warriors, right? Very much a Steph Curry esque player that at any given point on the floor is able to score, and you have to pretty much pick her up from half court, or else it'll be a problem. So and thinking of her and her being seemingly, and I don't want to like call it ahead of time, but seemingly being a once in a generation type of player. Um, you had the no brainer of having her, and then what we saw out of South Carolina. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of publicity surrounding Caitlin, but you know when we're talking basketball, basketball is a game that involves 5 on 5, and don't get me wrong, while you can have terrific players on your team, if you have a terrific squad, that squad is going to beat that one player every single time. And
Every single time.
in that University of South Carolina team, they were undefeated. They did not lose a game the entire season. Like I want people to like really put that into context that through the regular season, through this tournament, they did not lose a game. That's insane. Not one game. So um, that just is a testament to the type of squad that you're dealing with, of them being able to cohesively work together as a team and uh, not have it, ride or die on one player. And don't get me wrong, Caitlin had an incredible season. She set some incredible, records over the course of that season. She was a great story for the season, but she came upon that wall that is South Carolina, and wasn't able to get past it. So Um, Now, and speaking with UConn, I know, like, I believe we were talking about this last week and talking about Bronny James, and I kind of have an idea as to why he might why maybe he's being provided with the suggestion of declaring is, I mean, outside of maybe a handful of players, and a very small handful, mind you, that we have this season versus some of the other draft classes that we had, let's be
This is a weak
honest,
one.
is
This
it,
is
is
a
it
weak one.
really that many that we can think of offhand that are big names that are going to be coming out of this draft? And even if they are, recognizable among the draft, are they going to be a franchise player immediately?
Right.
So this might be a way to be able to move through that draft, because there really isn't a lot to say about this draft versus another draft where there might be a lot of big names, and you might get lost among that shuffle of those other players. And don't get me wrong, yes, you're LeBron James's son, and you do have that name going for you. And while I've mentioned it before, do believe he is a capable player. That may also be playing into that decision, or maybe playing into the advice that he's being given is, if you're going to try to get into the NBA, you might be able to sneak in through this year, because there's not like a lot of huge names that are coming through this draft class. So I don't know how you feel about that theory, or if you have other thoughts on how this kind of can connect to, the Bronny James uh, uh, decision, so to speak.
Well, again, I don't think Bronny's good enough to play in the NBA. And obviously we can't really know because he had a heart attack before the season
Right, of
started, and
course.
it's
Which
just like,
which I feel would
that
warrant
sucks.
him
But
playing another
most
year being
people,
completely healthy. But that's
yeah,
just me.
but most people that have heart attacks can't make professional sports leagues. No matter how good you are. Like if you have a bad ticker, you have a bad ticker, and like unfortunately, not having that kind of health is not going to lead you to a great team. But even like the players that were good in the tournament this year aren't great NBA prospects. Like that big kid from Purdue, he's seven
Really,
foot four. He looks big and stuff. I think he might be drafted and stay in the league a while because of the Victor Wembanyama's of the world, and he looks like the type of guy
I
that
feel
you
like
would
he's going to
throw
be
at
a
a
great role
Victor.
player. I feel like he's going to be a great role player, but I don't believe he's going to be a franchise player.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think so either. But I think that you'll need a guy like, I feel like guys like him are going to be making a lot of money over the next 15 years because they're going to have to deal with that tall French kid for the rest of our for the foreseeable future. So just like when Shaq was big and they was giving big guys that looked like they couldn't chew gum and walk at the same
Yeah,
time, but they was 7 foot, 300 pounds. They said, no,
money
we
out of it.
need you to
They
go out
need
there.
bodies.
Please go out there and
They
push
need
that dude.
bodies.
We
Yeah,
need
they
these
need
bodies.
bodies.
So I think that this is like you said. Even though this is one of the greatest WNBA drafts, this is probably going to be one of the worst NBA drafts of all time because I don't know who the number one pick is, and that's usually not how it is. Usually we know who the first guy at least is going to be,
We
but don't
normally know who
nobody
the
know.
first 10 guys are. Let's be honest. We
Yeah,
know
like
who the
we
first
don't know
10
who these
guys are.
guys are. Like you know, they had to fire Calipari this year because he didn't do good in the tournament because he didn't get no diaper dandies because the NIL has changed everything. So it's just like a whole new world. I don't know. It's almost like the draft is dead.
I don't know about that, but I do believe, like, you know, it waxes and wanes, right? Like, you have your really strong years, you're gonna have your years that are not as strong. Like, it's just gonna be years like that. It's gonna go up and down, just fluctuates like that. But like I said, it could be an opportunity for a certain somebody to be able to, sneak up in there
He's
and
not good enough. He's
fall
not good
through the
enough.
cracks.
I don't think he wasn't. He wasn't good enough when he was leaving high school. Like he wasn't good enough when he was leaving high school to me. So I don't know.
I hear you. All right, so We're going to be talking about our last story. You probably saw a preview of it in the promo, but you also saw a preview of it in the back and or say in our background, and that's of course with OJ Simpson. Um, on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, he passed away at the age of 76. Just to give you, just a quick rundown of what he has accomplished, in his NFL career, because that's, how the celebrity or the no the knowing of OJ came about, was in the NFL. He had four Pro Bowl selections. He's combined for over 14,000 yards. He has four Russian titles and has played 11 seasons. Of course, once that NFL career concluded, he became a staple as a commentator, also as an actor. In comedies with brain farting on my guy here. Like I said, it's nighttime, guys, evening. But
Leslie Nielsen.
Nelson Nielsen, thank you, of the Naked Gun
That's
franchise.
right.
So, of course, and it's crazy to believe that it's been 30 years. This happened in 1994. Reason why I brought up or mentioned the word controversial is, of course, he was the primary suspect in the case surrounding his ex-wife, as well as her friend, and them losing their lives and taking their lives. So, Spillman, a very complicated and controversial figure. What are your thoughts the on OJ Simpson and the legacy that was left behind?
OJ was a crazy sports star. He was in crazy movies. It's kind of, I don't think that people who weren't alive at the time could understand what OJ really was.
How big he was?
It's kind of like if Charles Barkley murdered his wife or something like that today. That's the only thing that I could kind of make an analogy to it. But Charles Barkley wasn't as good a basketball player as OJ Simpson was a football player, if that makes sense. Um, you know, obviously the trial and everything, and obviously his later charges with the memorabilia issue is what people focus on today. Because obviously most of the internet users and stuff, that's all we really know about OJ. Like, OJ was not in the league when I was born. OJ was already retired for many years by then. Um, so, to me, he really only is the guy from the chase. I just, but that chase launched so many careers, like saved careers, launched careers,
He
like,
did. Like, and, if we're just talking about the trial in and of itself, all the said parties that were involved, the lawyers that were involved, sent their careers into the stratosphere, and they still are in essence um continuing on from that momentum that they secured all those years ago, 30 years ago.
hmm
So yeah, like, I mean, it there is definitely, like I said, a legacy that is left there. Just as you mentioned, a terrific, athlete, terrific player in the NFL. Uh, one of the few people that were, one of the few athletes that are able or were able to transition into movies, because they're not. Uh, we don't have a whole bunch of athletes, whether they, are former, NFL stars, former basketball stars, former wrestlers, that have been able to make the leap over to films and still have it happen smoothly, where, they have the charisma necessary and they have the chops necessary to be able to kind of hold their own. And he was one of the few people who was able to do that. Um, but at the same time, with what came after, and it's really hard to kind of like it based off of everything that has been presented to not think some type of way. So um you know you know it's unfortunate that that he's passed away, but at the same time, like there's a lot going on there, a lot of baggage that goes with that, and that followed that following you know un- following what happened uh after that time, in which as you said, there was a it was at a time where he was like at the zenith of his popularity, and he had a reputation of being someone who was well liked. But unfortunately, following what happened with the football and the movies, what came after is really really horrible. So any one last final thoughts, and then speaking of that before we wrap up.
Um, I think also, obviously, OJ will always be famous as the one brother that beat the system. And like, obviously, there's been such a thing in America over the years about the system as it's set up, and it's
With
just
race, yeah,
crazy that
yeah. There's
we've
undoubtedly
come
that
so
component
far.
of
Yeah.
layers
So
that were involved with race. But yeah, still, even outside of that, it's yeah, it's nothing that can that you could look past, in that regard. And the thing that makes it, that kind of cements it, is everything that happened after that, where you know you would think that in a circumstance like that you would you know stay out the way, but like there's seemed to be like a need to still.
what if you didn't kill them people though? Would you stay out the way if you didn't kill them people?
I'm just saying, like, there were so many circumstances where it was brought up, and there was an opportunity to like really definitively, say otherwise. And there were many occasions when it was even like joked around, and like in situations like that,
Yeah.
joke about you don't joke about stuff like that. And it seemed
I
like it.
mean, they be joking about that kind of stuff all the time on that other side. We've seen those kind of infamous
But I'm
people who did
saying that
infamous things who got off who
you
do that kind of thing in life. I feel
I'm
like,
just saying, yeah, nah. It's
yeah,
just
I
like
don't know. I
nonetheless.
just
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm.
this
So
is an offline conversation
agree.
for sure,
We have
ladies and gentlemen.
to yeah. So with that being said, we're gonna wrap up this show tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. Before we wrap up here, of course, I'm gonna punt it over to Spills. Spills, can you tell folks where they can find you, Chief?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? You can find me on Instagram at Truly Spill. Sometimes I do cool After Effects like this, and things happen for me. I've got cool help from the good people at Cupertino. So, I'm happy you guys always come to see us every week. And we'll see you next week. Go
Oh,
Lakers.
well, I do want to mention that. I'm glad you brought that up. We are actually at a bye next week. You will not see us
Oh,
next week. You will see us the week after that. There's a little thing that is happening next week, my birthday, that is happening. So there will be nothing happening work wise in terms of me doing this show next week. So just so you know, that will be so that I guess that will be what, the 27th. We'll be back. We will have a bye week on the 20th. Um, but other than that, as always, you can find me at Brandon Troy ENT on X. And of course, Brandon Troy underscore ENT on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching, guys. Be safe out there. And of course, see you soon. Bye now.
peace.